Hi, this is Senator Malcolm Roberts with our weekly review. I want to share a few things that came up for us this week, and then we'll have questions and answers as usual. I've got a defence briefing at about 40 minutes from now, so I'll have to cut short what we do today. But the calendar for future months, I've got to do that as well afterwards. I hardly spend any time in my office because we have to prepare a calendar for May, June and July, and our office manager is just tearing her hair out trying to sort out when I can get together with her to sort the calendar. Anyway, I've got to do that today. Must do it. So I want to thank Michael and Sue Blaxland for your card. I'll be up your way, Mick, for the Gympie Rally on Saturday the 13th of May, so I look forward to catching up with you and hopefully Sue. The big item this week, of course, was Anzac Day. So many young people turning out these days. I went to 3 services. Let's see. The first one was starting at 4:15 a.m. in the dark at the dawn service at the Centenary War Memorial, Mount Omni. It was raining, yet the energy was high. People are really keen to go out on Anzac Day these days and commemorate Anzac Day and what our diggers gave us at Gallipoli and the Anzac relationship with New Zealand. So it was a wonderful, wonderful service. And that's one of the things I like about Anzac Day. The services are simple and short and powerful. So then later on, Christine and I went to the Darra RSL or Bowls Club, and I was amazed there with some Vietnam veterans from Vietnam. They're really Vietnamese, and they have very strong support in the community and support for the community. They really support the RSL club, the Bowls Club there, and they're wonderfully organised, and they really helped Peter Mapp, who organised the session and led the commemoration. But it was really stunning to see these people from Vietnam who went through the war and fought side by side with Aussies, and to see them really helping the community and helping the RSL club there. And then we went to Red Bank. Kristen and I went to Red Bank, which was a different setting altogether. It was a garden setting. They had a live band, not a pop band or a rock band, but a brass band with other instruments outside the brass as well. And again, I saw strong Vietnamese support, especially from a man called Hai and his wife Cheryl, who escaped as boat people from Vietnam in 1980, I think, from memory. But Hai and Cheryl both looked remarkably younger than they are, full of energy, very strong supporters of us. And so I appreciate not only the support, but the support they gave to and that they give to the RSL in Red Bank. But their energy was just something to behold. And of course, the whole thing is about diggers who built our nation and built that relationship with New Zealand as well. So as I said at the start, it's very pleasing to see young people coming out and numbers actually growing. Some of the diggers might be dying and numbers falling, but the veterans rather, but might be reducing in number. But the children, the young people are making up for it, and the enthusiasm is really there, because I think it's almost become Australia's national day, a day of celebration. Sure, we've got Australia Day, and that needs to stay, but this is the day in which Australia was born. The spirit of Australia. So I'm remembering also that I appreciate the diggers, the fact that we have a solid relationship with New Zealand and our countries and people are so compatible. And also it's wonderful to hear the New Zealand national anthem played at all 3 services. I want to especially mention the people who organised and led the commemoration events. George at Centenary War Memorial, Peter Mapp at Darra, Gary Gibson and Bear, big man, Paul, High, and the band itself at Red Bank. Now, our diggers fought and died for so many of the freedoms and things that we just take for granted today. But we need to be vigilant because they're slipping away, some of them. And I'm specifically referring to the Queensland and Hunter Valley coal miners, especially casual coal miners, who've been really shafted since about 2014. That's when BHP turned its strategy towards cutting wages. And I've got no problem with any employer, sitting down with the workers and saying, okay, we need to cut wages or trim costs or improve productivity because we're facing difficult times. I've got no problem with that. And coal industry has been in and out of downturns over the years. Not because of the coal industry's fault, by the way, but because of the stupid way we manage our country's finances within the Western world. It's guaranteed to drive cycles. But that's what they did. And we've gone through over the last almost 4 years pushing the case of Simon Turner and Sam Stevens and other casual coal miners in the Hunter and in central Queensland. And I won't go through those in detail, but it's been inhuman what BHP and Chandler McLeod are doing and have been doing at Mount Arthur Mine in the Hunter Valley, and what other companies are doing. Some other companies are doing at some other mines in the Hunter and in central Queensland. We met after every Senate estimates. I bang the same drum: Fair Work Commission, Fair Work Ombudsman, coal long service leave. 3 sessions a year for the last, heading now towards 4 years. And we will keep doing it until we get these matters resolved and achieve our 3 aims, which I'll talk about in a minute. But at last, Tony Burke, the Minister for Workplace Relations, agreed for us to meet with his senior staff. And I must say, I was impressed with his senior staff. They were attentive and they were astounded with what Simon did, what Simon showed. And Sam Stevens ably helped him. Persistence pays off, because every Senate estimates hearings since our return to Parliament in 2019, I've banged away at these things. We've achieved a review of coal long service leave, which has vindicated exactly what I have been saying on behalf of Simon and Sam and the other Hunter and Central Queensland miners from the start. Joel Fitzgibbon, the member for Hunter, the former member for Hunter, when I first raised these issues, he said, "Oh, it's good to see you're chasing casuals, chasing the entitlements for casuals, and you're realising there's a casual permanent rort going on. But as for your other stuff, no, rubbish." Well, coal long service leave review proved me right. Now we're starting to see other people recognising I am right. It's not me who's right, it's Simon and Sam and the miners, the casual miners particularly, who are right. I hand-delivered a bloody letter to Dan Repicola, who replaced Joel Fitzgibbon as the member for Hunter. Hand-delivered it. 3.5-page letter, including past correspondence. Not one response. The Labor Party in the Hunter Valley is not the least bit interested in looking after the miners, nor in central Queensland. In Senate estimates in February, just 2 months ago, the minister, not Minister Burke, but the minister representing him in the Senate, Minister Watt, seemed to acknowledge at last that I will persist until these issues are resolved. Now, Simon and Sam were very, very well prepared, and they were very, very well spoken. They gave the Department of Workplace Relations 4 documents. Look at the thickness of this one. All solid material. Documents, files, letters. They gave them this document. And this document. And this document, which they're sending to all members of Parliament. I want to acknowledge Simon just spoke so extremely well. And he covered some really hard-hitting points. He covered the fraud, the literal fraud that he and we now have proof of. Because through fraudulent means, the Chandler McLeod Group, labour hire firm, has been stealing workers' money for years. And it's now in your hands, Tony Burke. But that stealing of workers' wages and entitlements and putting people through untold misery when they discarded them on the scrap heap and abolished or bypassed coal mine workers' insurance for people injured, bypassed accident pay. All of this was possible only with the Hunter Valley CFMEU union bosses colluding with Chandler McLeod. I'll say it again. This theft of entitlements, wages, basic conditions and protections was possible only with the help of the collusion of the Hunter Valley CFMEU union bosses. And we've uncovered some really serious issues with serious conflicts of interest and, we believe, criminal activity. And it could only have happened with BHP colluding and Coal LSL colluding. The cover-up has been relating to the identity of the true employer of Simon Turner and Sam Stevens. Listen to this one. The Australian Taxation Office has confirmed in their own investigations into Simon's documents that Simon is correct. This explains the fraud that's going on. As I said, it's now in Minister Burke's hands. Coal LSL has failed yet again, and repeatedly they've failed in their governance of Coal LSL Long Service Leave Miners Contribution Fund. We know that Auscoal provided the administration for Coal LSL at a time when Coal LSL declared in the past few years that they had no staff. Listen to this. Auscoal's owners are in a joint partnership between the Hunter Valley CFMEU and the Mining Industry Employers Body. That's the same with the Coal LSL. Its owners are in a joint partnership between the Hunter Valley CFMEU as directors and owners and the Mining Industry Employers Body. I'll leave you to realise the conflicts of interest are clear and make it easy to hide workers' money and avoid accountability. And they deny miners' entitlements to cheat miners out of their entitlements. There's been misreporting of hours worked and accrual of entitlements in coal long service leave. Serious governance questions and many more questions. We'll continue to ask these questions. Now we'll be waiting for them to see waiting for Minister Burke and his office to see what they do. As I said, I was impressed with the 3 senior people he sent to meet with us, and they were impressed with Simon and with the case we've built up. I'm a little bit concerned, though, because the Labor Party, when it comes to legislating, and some of this needs legislation, we put forward very simple legislation, which people are now starting to recognise is elegantly simple and is exactly what's needed. But we'll see if the Labor Party doesn't do its usual trick of coming up with something that's far too complex. I want to remind people before I finish this topic, we had 3 aims. When I first met with Simon, he came to Canberra. He satisfied us that he had a very strong case. We then met in the Hunter Valley. We travelled to the Hunter Valley. I know I'm a senator for Queensland, but this was the best way of exposing what is going on in Queensland and the Hunter Valley. These were some of the worst cases we'd heard of. So we went to the Hunter Valley, and I want to acknowledge Stuart Bonds as well, because he was instrumental in getting us together with Simon and Sam. And we met in the Hunter Valley with 8 coal miners severely injured in the Hunter Valley through abusive management practices, and all with the collusion of the Hunter Valley CFMEU. The 3 aims, I said, I like to work to simple aims so that it keeps us on track. So I can, and they're easy to remember and keeps everyone united. The 3 aims we had, first of all, to get Simon Turner's legal and moral entitlements. We've won one particular case there for Simon, but we've still got a couple more to go. And Simon's been working hard in the court system as well. Very, very savvy bloke. Now, the second aim was to make sure that these practices, these inhuman third world country practices, are abolished in the coal industry and across other industries, because we're learning now that this is spread in many, many other industries around Australia. And the third one, I hope you're listening, Chandler McLeod, BHP and Hunter Valley CFMU, the third one was to get justice for Simon Turner and for casual miners in central Queensland and the Hunter Valley. And I'll say it again, people know by now, they've watched me operate on this Fair Work Commission, Fair Work Ombudsman and Coal LSL. We will persist. We will persist until we achieve our 3 aims for miners in Queensland and the Hunter Valley. The point I want to tack on here is that we need industrial relations reform. The Fair Work Act, even some Labor MPs who were around when Julia Gillard introduced the Fair Work Act said it was a dog at the start. It's far worse now because it's highly complex. What it means is that if you need protection, good luck, because you won't find it in the Fair Work Act, because you won't find it. It's buried under complex, extensive words and phrases that are beyond most people. That means workers don't know their rights and responsibilities. Small businesses don't know their rights and responsibilities. Who does? Members of the Industrial Relations Club know what's available there. They have deep pockets for lawyers, union bosses. So who's in the IR club? Union bosses of some major companies, major unions, not all. There are some good unions around. The lawyers, the industrial relations consultants, the human resources consultants, the mining, the industry bodies, not just in mining but outside. That's the Industrial Relations Club, and it's deliberately made complex. So they are, yes, Shirley, the Fair Work Act failed when we were forced to be jabbed to keep our jobs. You're damn right. They completely failed, and so did the major unions in this country. Failed to protect workers' rights. But I want to finish by saying we need industrial relations reform to get back to something that's really simple. And instead of being enabling large companies and large union bosses and lawyers to get off the hook, it needs to be something that has real teeth, something very simple. Instead of 900 pages of gobbledygook and protection for these industrial relations club, we need a very simple, short act that puts forward basic responsibilities. And instead of allowing, as the current act does, for the large players to get off scot-free, it needs to have real teeth. And if someone violates this legislation and workers' basic entitlements and employers' basic entitlements, they need to go to jail. Go to jail. Speaking of Senate estimates, preparations are starting within our team in the office here for Senate estimates coming up in second half of May and June. This morning, I was stunned. I got into the office early and waited for a podcast with Hoodie. You know Graham Hood, the former Qantas pilot who resigned after 50 years, I think, service to Qantas, decades as a pilot, captain of air flights, and he was interviewing Naomi Wolf, a remarkable woman. An inspiring woman. There is an article on her speech to Hillsdale College this week, 24th of April. It is a stunner. It goes through some of the 11 points. I'll go through some of them. But first I'll tell you a bit of background. The Pfizer documents, which most people realize have been released and were ordered by the court to be released. What she did when she saw this huge amount of material coming out from Pfizer, which it tried to hide for 70 years, she got together a first-class group of scientists, statisticians, medical experts, and she formed them into teams to examine the Pfizer documents. And they've gone through it. So my first question, because of Naomi this morning, was, what is the scientific basis? That's really simple. Because you see, when I raise questions in Senate estimates, one of the first things they say is, where's your scientific peer-reviewed papers? And they know full well that the peer-reviewed papers are corrupted. At least 50... there's a peer-reviewed paper that says at least 50% of the peer-reviewed papers are corrupt. So I'm always very careful to make sure we have the peer-reviewed papers as evidence. And Naomi pointed out, these are Pfizer's own documents that scientists have studied scientifically, and they've independently summarized them. I'll go through some of the points, see how much time we've got. There are 11 major points that Naomi provides. First point, Pfizer knew their gene-based injections had negative efficacy as early as November 2020. In other words, they didn't help you defend against COVID. They made it worse for you to defend against COVID. If you got the shot. That's why so many people didn't get the shot. Secondly, shortly after the release of the COVID injections on the market, Pfizer moved to hire 2,400 full-time employees to process the paperwork of the injured. I'll say that again. Pfizer moved to hire almost 2,500 full-time employees to process the paperwork of the injured. So much for the claims from our government, state and federal, from our bureaucrats and the healthcare people, that there are no injection injuries. It's bullshit. Complete bullshit. It's a lie. Number 3, Pfizer and the FDA in America, the American agency charged with approval of medications, Pfizer and the FDA withheld information that the shots cause heart damage in youth. For 4 months they withheld it, while an aggressive propaganda then they tried to convince people with propaganda to get injected. Number 4, rather than staying in the injection site, which is the arm, Pfizer knew the shot's dangerous lipid nanoparticles quickly distribute throughout the body, and there is no evidence they ever leave. That's why people who take the 3rd and 4th shots, the boosters, are much more highly likely to be injured, because it just builds up in the body. Number 5, I don't say it lightly, she said, but it's mass murder. Side effects in Pfizer documents are far more severe than America's CDC, Center for Disease Control, and doctors have told their patients. Doctors and health bureaucrats have been lying to us. By the way, I asked questions of our Therapeutic Goods Administration in Senate estimates last time in February, and the head of the Therapeutic Goods Administration admitted that because they don't have the resources, they relied on the FDC, America's FDC. Because America's FDC, according to the TGA, has billions of dollars in its budget and 15,000 employees. So the TGA admitted that it didn't do its testing here, which we knew from the start, but at least now they're admitting it, and they relied upon the FDA's documents. Well, guess what? The FDA has admitted they haven't done the testing either. The FDA relied on Pfizer. So that shot has come in here, been provisionally approved by our TGA, our medical bureaucrats, with no testing, which we knew, and they relied directly and only on Pfizer's documents. Number 6, prior to it being legal, more than 1,000 children were injected, and Pfizer's documents indicate a high rate of serious injury. We worked that out through scientists sharing with us the data on Thailand injuries. Something like 30% of kids who were injected, children who were injected, had marked adverse events. Number 7, Pfizer documents reveal a Mengele-type experiment on how to disrupt and impair human reproduction. They were recording this, and they continued it. Available records of study participants who conceived children show that 80% lost their babies. That explains the decrease in births and the decrease in fertility and the decrease in people conceiving. Number 8, Pfizer knew there was a danger to fertility. Pfizer knew there was a danger to fertility. Lipid nanoparticles damage the placenta during pregnancy, causing early deliveries. Lots of chromosomal abnormalities as well. This is inhuman. Number 9, Pfizer documents show that lipid nanoparticles also enter breast milk, stunting, injuring, and sometimes killing babies. Killing babies. Number 10. This is Nazi medicine, a war on women's fertility. Pfizer documents, I'll say that again actually, this is a war on women's fertility. It's a war on women. Naomi Wolf showed us that this morning. Pfizer documents show 3-to-1 of adverse events sustained by women. So that's 3 times for every adverse event, for every 4 adverse events, 3 of them were women, 1 was a man. 16% involved of the female adverse events involved reproductive disorders. What kind of monsters, she asks, look at 16% reproductive disorders and keep going? That's the Nazi Mengele. Results, 13 to 20% drop in live births in the United States. 13 to 20% drop in live births. And some of the children who were born were under severe trauma. Number 11, the liquid nanoparticles degraded the basic factories of masculinity in boys' testes in utero when their mother had been injected. So these are monsters, and there's no way to avoid concluding that they're focusing on disrupting human reproduction. I've never seen evidence of that. But Pfizer's documents, thanks to Naomi Wolf and her scientists and statisticians and medical experts, have now got it quite clearly from Pfizer themselves. As I said, I was on a Zoom call this morning with Hoodie, with Senator Alex Anzac, with Naomi Wolf and John Ledra. Now, it's very important, and that'll be coming out very soon. Hoodie normally takes a little while to get his podcast out because they have to be rendered and so on, but they're aiming to get it out by this evening. So we're waiting for that to come out. When it does come out, we'll post it. It's very important that Naomi Wolf not only organised this extremely well, as an author, as a journalist, she's been a very, very strong Democrat. But now that she's admitting that she is reconsidering everything. So when you've built so much into your beliefs, it takes enormous courage to question them, and that's exactly what she's doing. She's questioning the whole Democratic Party in America because the Democratic Party is riddled with this inhuman corruption and conflicts of interest. Completely riddled. Soros bought the Democratic Party over the last few years. Another one who I've got enormous admiration for is Robert F. Kennedy, Children's Health Defense, because he was a very strong Democrat. You can tell in the way he writes, you can tell in what he says, but he's now wondering about the Democratic Party. These, some people would call them left-wing, control side of politics. These people were totally dedicated to the Democratic Party, and they've got the guts to question what they've been doing. So as I said, when we get word from Hoodie, Graham Hood, of the details and location of the podcast, we will post that. There might be a small fee to access it. I'm not sure how he does that. It won't be a fee from us, it'll be a fee from Hoodie, because Hoodie is traveling around the country, and I want to call him out, and John Ledra. They're doing a marvelous job. They're going around the country at their own expense, interviewing people, and they're doing a phenomenal job providing great leadership, impartial leadership. Okay, next topic. Oh, and remember where that came from? I'll do it again. Just Google this. Naomi Wolf's lecture at Hillsdale College. Next topic, inflation. Inflation remains high. There's been a slight fall recently, 1% fall, due to a reduction in shop prices as floods ease and agricultural production bounces back. And the government is doing a victory lap as if it's chief success. It's still 7%, fellas. It's still 7%. It's way too high for people. It's crueling people. Petrol prices are locked in high. Labor seems happy that fuel costs us more, so we drive less, and they can meet their UN 2050 net zero target. That the Liberal Nationals introduced, it's UN policy. Liberal Labor and Nationals and Greens all support a 2050 net zero target. We need to be free of the UN World Economic Forum alliance and restore sovereignty and governance. We need to govern for Australia, not for globalist predators. And we need to govern based upon data, not contradicting the data. Another point that's come up this week. Labor's Mobile Black Spots program. It's Labor's Sports Rorts 2.0. Labor has sent money to 54 electorates to so-called fixed black spots programs in mobile phone reception. 40 of the 54, that's almost 80%, were Labor electorates. 11 were LNP electorates. 7 of the 11 LNP electorates are in marginal electorates that Labor wants to win. See what they do? They take our money and they give it to their constituents in their seats or seats they want to win. They're taking our money, stealing it with huge taxes and giving it to people to try and buy their vote. That's all I've got time for. I've actually gone over schedule by a little bit. But tomorrow, I just want to finish with these points. Tomorrow, I'll be speaking in Mujimba and the Sunshine Coast tomorrow afternoon. 1 o'clock, people will start to come and we'll be able to answer questions. 1:30, the speeches will start. The speakers are myself on governance and the country generally, and Jock McRobert, who's an engineer and a publisher, on his topic, and I'll quote this is the headline, Climate Change. Do you know the whole story? I do. Do you? Come along and find out. Tickets are $10 and that's due to fundraising for community activities and also inside the hall, etc. It's at North Shore Community Centre, Majimba. North Shore Community Centre, Majimba. Tomorrow, Saturday, the 29th of April, 1 o'clock for 1:30 p.m. start. Then tomorrow night, I don't think this is a public event, but maybe, but I don't think so. I'll be speaking again at Moray Field on my way home to Brisbane from Majimba. Moray Field in the evening, speaking at a dinner event with Doctors Against Mandates and the Australian Medical Professional Society. Can you believe that mandates, inhuman mandates, forcing people to get injections they don't want, are still in force? It's inhuman. Doctors are at last standing up because they realise they've lost their profession, they've lost their industry, they've lost their service. Next week, I'll be doing the same thing, except I'll be doing it earlier than 3 p.m. because I'm going to go camping. It's our daughter's birthday the following day, Saturday the 6th. So we're going camping with her and her husband and our little grandson. And so we'll be earlier than 3 p.m. next week. One last thought. Remember, labels are the refuge of the ignorant and the dishonest. When people can't argue with you, when they don't have the data, they will label you. Call you a racist, call you an Islamophobe, homophobe, Nazi, whatever, climate denier, whatever. So when you get labelled, know that you are winning because they can't counter you. I'll say it again. I saw it a couple of weeks ago. Labels are the refuge of the ignorant and the dishonest. So any questions? Actually, I think I better go. I've got that defence briefing. So thank you for listening in. See you next week and have a good week in between and be safe and be free.